distinguished guests, and trustees of the Africa Division of the BBT Africa, honored guests representing International Society for Krishna Consciousness, visiting friends from Ghana, from Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Mauritius, Kenya, the United States of America, and students of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. I was honored to be asked by Dr. Singh to officially open the 6th annual conference of the BBT Africa launch. This year's conference is significant in that it celebrates, as was explained here, 40th anniversary of the first visit to Africa by the esteemed spiritual leader, Srila Prabhupada, in October 1975. Srila Prabhupada spent 1 month, of course, on African soil, part of which was spent here in our city of Durban. At that time, the apartheid regime had very strict policies on who could and who could not enter South Africa. It was not easy feat opening the bureaucratic door to allow South Africans to benefit of Srila Prabhupada's presence and teachings. But once here, he was greeted with enthusiasm by devotees and seekers of truth who came out in their numbers to hear his lectures and purchase his books. While he was in Durban, Srila Prabhupada urged his disciples to build a magnificent temple and to have a Ratha Yatra festival. Over the next 10 years, devotees in Durban worked not only to fulfill his request, but to build the largest Radha Krishna temple in the southern hemisphere. The Sri Radhanath temple, which was opened on the 18th of October 1985. At that time, I was the chief minister of the then KwaZulu government and president of Inkatha Nkululeko Yesizwe and traditional prime minister to the Zulu monarch and nation. I was invited to the opening as the guest of honor. That night, the highway leading to the temple was backed up with cars as pilgrims streamed to join the festivities. I remember walking into the temple and being overwhelmed by its extravagant beauty. Indeed, when I spoke, I admitted that the temple was leagues ahead of many I had seen on my extensive travels throughout the world. And one of the distinguished guests was Mr. Amichand, the late Amichand Rajbansi, who spoke that night about the significance of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness as a symbol of hope for South Africa. He said, knows no barriers, no distinction between countries, between groups or nations. There was resonance in what he said. For at the time, Mr. Rajbansi was one of the patriotic South Africans who had joined the South African Black Alliance. Through the South African Black Alliance, which I chaired, Inkatha, the Reform Party of Ms. Yellen Chinsamy, and the Labour Party of Ms. Leon, brought together Black, Indian, and colored South Africans. We're doing this in defiance of the Prohibition on Improper Interference Act, which sought to force political division along racial lines. I recount all this, for I wish to emphasize today the long history of influence and interaction between International Society for Krishna Consciousness, His Divine Grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and this province of KwaZulu-Natal. The The interaction continues today, as you can see, in many forms, and one of which is the distribution, as we have heard, of Srila Prabhupada's writings through the BBT Africa. It was very important to His divine grace that his writings be distributed as widely as possible. I know that he wrote to Sri Swami Shivananda, the founder of the Divine Life Society, in this regard, urging him to distribute literature. He also wrote to Sri Swami Sahajananda, thanking him for working conjointly to propagate Krishna consciousness. I was very privileged to have enjoyed a strong friendship with Sri Swami Sahajananda, who became a friend and mentor to me for more than 30 years. By the time we met, he had already been serving our country through the Divine Life Society since 1949. Through him, I came to know the character and teachings of Sri Swami Shivananda. We shared a vision for educating South African children, and through our partnership, we managed to build many classrooms in KwaZulu-Natal. At the time, there was a gospel that people should not go to school, liberation now, education later. And there was chaos in South Africa. There is tremendous benefit to be gained from investing in education and in the well-being of the younger generation. I know that the BBT Africa is doing both through the translation, publication, and distribution of Vedic teachings. BBT Africa is opening the way for individuals from all walks of life to begin thinking more deeply, questioning their assumptions, and shaping their values. As a Christian, I believe in the words of Christ when he said, quote, "Seek and ye shall find, knock and the door will be opened unto you," unquote. We cannot foster a spirit of learning until we inspire a desire to seek. Through its publications, the BBT Africa is prompting people to begin seeking. Those who read these books have already embarked on a journey, not simply knowledge, but towards truth. I was very privileged this morning before the conference started to chat with Their Holinesses, the Swamis, who told me how much has been achieved in our continent of Africa. Over the years, some have asked me why I work so well with the Hare Krishna movement, and with the Hindus too, and with Buddhists as well, and with other systems of belief, which are different to my own. Well, I could quote Srila Prabhupada's teaching, and I would like to quote him. He said, "I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I'm equal to all. But whoever renders service unto me is devotion. In devotion, rather, is a friend. Is in me, and I'm also a friend to him," unquote. To my mind, we're all equal in human dignity and intrinsic value. But those who are selfless, who render service to others, as the Hare Krishna movement, display a greater understanding of the purpose of our lives. I find kinship with those who look beyond their own needs to serve the greater needs of those around them. I'm therefore particularly appreciative of the work of the BBT Africa, that the BBT Africa supports with regard to our children. Youth in South Africa and across Africa face a serious challenge to stand against the temptation of alcohol and drug abuse, and to oppose the social pressure towards sexual promiscuity. We are passing through a difficult time when, in fact, because of the pandemic of AIDS, government is suggesting supplying condoms even to primary school children. And by engaging our youth on these critical issues, BBT Africa is supporting the well-being of the younger generation and ensuring that tomorrow's active citizens are better equipped in healthy and productive and selfless lives. I admire the wisdom of the BBT Africa in translating Srila Prabhupada's writings into so many different languages. I was quickly looking through the gift that I've just received, quite a treasure, in so many of our languages. As our icon Nelson Mandela said, speak to a man in a language he understands, and it will go to his head. But speak to him in his own language, and it will go to his heart, unquote. I am pleased that isiZulu is among the many languages chosen for translation. Greater awareness of spiritual teaching is a good sign in any society. When one looks at the hierarchy of needs, spirituality is often ignored because physical security and physical sustenance are such immediate and pressing needs. There is thus wisdom in the way the Hare Krishna movement prioritizes feeding people in the community. Once the stomach is fed, the focus can more easily turn to matters of the spirit. There is indeed a real connection between body and spirit, despite them being separate. I think this is what many people discover when they practice bhakti yoga. When there is well-being in the body, the spirit is free towards creativity. I can imagine there is a resonance in the teaching of the Christian Church that when one is in an attitude of prayer, kneeling, head bowed, and eyes closed, prayer comes more easily. It seems there is a growing understanding of the value of yoga and widespread interest in seeing yoga promoted throughout the world. As you may know, a proposal to declare the 21st of June International Yoga Day was indeed tabled at the 69th session of the United Nations General Assembly by the Honorable Minister of India, Narendra Modi. The proposal was approved by consensus by 193 members of the United Nations General Assembly, and a record of 177 members co-sponsored the proposal. In celebration of International Yoga Day this year, I was very privileged to join hundreds of enthusiasts for a mass lecture, an instructional class in Durban. When some of my enemies in the media heard that I participated, they couldn't believe it because of my age. I must say, the media was surprised to see me endure a 2-hour session of yoga, but I quite enjoyed it. My friendship with the Hare Krishna movement has been long and is characterized by admiration, appreciation, and mutual respect. And I can say that my relationship with the Hare Krishna movement has been one of the blessings of my life. I'm therefore honored to open this conference of the Africa Division of the BBT, knowing that the partnerships formed here will bear fruit in the years to come. I wish you every success as you engage debate, listen to wisdom, and strengthen friendships. May this conference see BBT Africa extending its reach. I thank you.